Hello everyone, I'm Austin Petersen, presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. Today I've got an interesting show for you today. We're going to be talking about one of my opponents for the White House, a former First Lady, wannabe. What would you call it? Would that mean that Bill Clinton would be first man? What would you call Bill? I'm not sure. But today we're going to be talking about the top 10 reasons why Hillary Clinton should not be elected President of the United States. And if I win the Libertarian Party nomination, I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to debate her and whoever the Republican nominee is eventually slated to be, which, bad for America, but good for my candidacy. If it's Donald Trump, I think that I actually have a great opportunity here to spread the message of libertarianism and possibly get the highest vote total that any libertarian presidential candidate has ever had. Hey, Rich Carraway, shout out, thanks a lot. You the man. So I'm going to go down this list, and I'm not going to be taking questions over phone or by text today, but I will be taking questions in the chat. So if you send your questions right down here at the bottom, you can go ahead and log into the chat, and I'll be able to see your questions in the live stream as I go through 1 through 10, the reasons why Hillary should not be elected President of the United States. And the reason why we're doing these live streams, of course, is to remind you that the end of the quarter is here. Tomorrow is the last day that you can make a donation to the Petersen campaign and it be counted in our FEC reports that will be reported. And of course, we want to look strong for those. So if you guys can please send at least $3 to austinpetersen2016.com. You can send us a $3 donation, or you can buy a bumper sticker or a wristband. So don't forget to do that before the deadline tomorrow night at midnight. Otherwise, it won't be counted in this quarter's FEC reports, and we want to look strong, of course, and come out of the gate strong. So the number one reason that I have, or at least the first reason why Hillary Clinton should not be elected president, is obvious, because of who wants an oligarchy. The United States was founded upon the selection of rulers by popular sovereignty rather than ascension through bloodlines. I mean, do we really want the first female president to be the wife of a former president? There's no doubt that Hillary was going to play up her associations to her husband's accomplishments while he was president in order to suggest that she might be able to replicate his successes. Now, legitimate candidates should not have to rely on their spouses or relatives to display why they are fit to serve. And I think it's very important, of course, why that's one of the major reasons why we need to reject Hillary Clinton at the ballot box. The second reason why Hillary Clinton should not be elected president, in my opinion, is that she's out of touch with the voters. And this was put on display. Here's an example. In July of 2014, she said that she and her husband were dead broke upon leaving the White House in 2001. Now, in 1999, they did buy a 5-bedroom house in Chappaqua, New York, for nearly $2 million, I believe. And in December of 2000, they bought a 7-bedroom house near Embassy Row in D.C., which, if you guys don't know and have never been there, it's very expensive. It's expensive to live there, guys, ladies and gentlemen. It's very expensive. Hello, Matthew Moore. Thank you very much for logging into the chat. If you guys send a donation during this live stream and I see it pop up on the screen, I'll give you a shout out as well, unless you say, don't do it. Number 3, she spent her entire life as a Washington insider. After she became First Lady in 1993, she would go on to become Senator of New York and then the Secretary of State, compiling 20 consecutive years working in the inner circle in Washington, D.C. Even those 3 roles were not her first experiences, of course, in the nation's capital. In fact, one of her first jobs after graduating from Yale Law School was serving on the impeachment inquiry staff during the Watergate trial. Interestingly enough there. It was only after she failed the Washington, D.C. bar exam that she made the final decision to marry Bill Clinton and move to Arkansas. So don't forget, put your questions down at the bottom. I'm watching and monitoring the chat right now. And don't forget, of course, the deadline to donate is tomorrow night, so don't forget to send us at least $3. Of course, you can send us more. And the next reason, number 4, she's a chronic liar. Before there was Brian Williams, there was Hillary Clinton. She infamously claimed in 2008 that she landed under sniper fire in Bosnia, which was refuted by video evidence of the event. However, that's not the first time that she has been caught telling untruths. In 1995, she claimed that after Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person that she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person that climbed Mount Everest summit. However, he didn't do that until 6 years after Clinton was born, making it unlikely that her mother would have been familiar with him at the time. Additionally, Jerry Zeifman, counsel and chief of staff at the Office of the House Judiciary Committee, claims that during her work on Watergate, Clinton wrote a fraudulent legal brief and confiscated public documents in order to prevent Nixon from being impeached so that Ted Kennedy would have a chance to win the presidency in 1976. Number 5, she changes positions when it's politically expedient. Hillary Clinton stated in 2000, "I think a marriage is, as a marriage always has been, between a man and a woman." These are her words, a liberal Democrat. She retained this position during her 2008 campaign, and until 2013, when she said that gay Americans are full and equal citizens and deserve the right of marriage, of citizenship that includes marriage. While it's understandable that Clinton could have had a change of heart, it's not the first time that she changed positions. She did favor the Cuban embargo in the year 2000 before she opposed it in 2014. And then she voted for the Iraq War in 2002 before campaigning against it, and she refused to admit her vote in 2008. And there was this one moment in 2007 when she spoke out in favor of giving driver's license to undocumented immigrants, and then she changed her position 2 minutes later, and then she changed it back the same day. I mean, is this really the type of person that you want in the White House? This is why you need a liberty champion, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we need an Austin Petersen in the White House, because you know that what I believe. I'm sitting here live, talking to you live about what I believe. I'll answer any of your questions, and I am utterly fearless to talk about these issues that are of vital importance to the American people, and indeed everyone in the world. Let's take a look at and see if we have any questions before I move on. I want to make sure you guys are sending me in some good ones. Here we go. Someone wants to know about the situation on the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. Of course, no one will like the answers on that, of course. Miles Emmanuel Mortale, thank you very much for jumping in the chat. Happy New Year's to everyone else. I don't really see a whole bunch of questions yet. I'll have to pull up my phone because I think my computer's wonking out. Number 6, the reason why Hillary Clinton should not be elected president. She's economically illiterate. Clinton has indicated that she agrees with the Alan Ehrenholt quote that she featured in her 1996 book, It Takes a Village, that, listen to this, guys, and this is going to drive you crazy. Listen to this. The unfettered free market has been the most radically disruptive force in American life in the last generation. Now, that's a true statement, but because disruptive, of course, is technically correct. Capitalism is disruptive. But listen to this. Now, while there can be an argument about what she meant by disruptive, her other statements should shed some light on what it is that she really means. She says, in 2014, she said, "Don't let anybody tell you that it's corporations and businesses that create jobs." I'm sorry, what planet does she live on? I mean, when you're talking about creating jobs, who creates jobs? The government doesn't create jobs. Government can only destroy, in order to create a job, the government must first destroy a job in order to create another one. Thank you very much, Clark Lind, for the donation. Very much appreciated, sir. I'm very grateful for that. Every single new name, especially that we get today, helps us to look amazing when we have to file our FEC report soon. And I'm scared. It's scary. Okay, moving on. Oh, and Maximilian, thank you very much. I'm very grateful for that. Oh, look at that. I just got an email from Judge Napolitano. What is that all about? Oh, I'm sorry. That's private. You guys can't read that. But I'm going to pull up the chat here so I can read. Of course, the number 7 reason why you should not vote for Hillary Clinton is that she's a Democrat who voted for war. For as big of a liberal as Clinton is on domestic issues, she has proven herself to be just as neoconservative on foreign policy. And Rand Paul called her out on that, by the way. She voted in favor of the Iraq War. Additionally, she stated she would have assisted anti-Assad forces in Syria, and her desire to intervene in Libya is what led to arming members of Al-Qaeda. She's also stated that that she would use nuclear weapons, in her words, to obliterate Iran if they were to attack Israel with nuclear weapons. I mean, she sounds like a standard issue warmonger to me. I don't know what that sounds like to you, but to me it sounds like Hillary Clinton is a neocon. And we definitely don't need another one of those in the White House, because that's all we've had for the last, I mean, almost every single president has been a neoconservative, even the Democrats, since Woodrow Wilson, since progressive Wilsonianism has taken over our government and our processes. Okay, so I see actually a bunch of questions in here. I've got a few questions that are pretty good, so I'll get to those once I finish my reading. You're the man, you're the man, you're the man. Number 8, anti-civil liberties, and a very important one, especially for libertarians, because we believe in civil liberties and they should be defended. She voted for the Patriot Act in 2001, which is reprehensible. As Secretary of State, she justified NSA spying by stating that it helps to protect the U.S. from terrorist attacks. She said she was puzzled and found it odd that Edward Snowden fled the country, and implied that she thought that he was attempting to assist China with his revelations about the NSA program. She also opposed the release of documents by WikiLeaks in 2010 and has in the past supported making flag burning illegal. In 2005, she introduced the Flag Protection Act, which would have called for a $100,000 fine and a 1-year sentence in jail for the offense. You know, the Supreme Court has upheld the right of Americans to burn the flag. That doesn't mean that you should do it, but just because you can be a jerk, of course, doesn't mean you ought to behave that way. And it's very important that we talk about these issues of privacy in the digital age. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm glad that John McAfee has decided to run in the Libertarian race, because he brings up very important issues about cybersecurity, and those are things that we do need to have a discussion on, and I'm glad to have it. In fact, I would be glad to see Mr. McAfee potentially become my vice presidential candidate, or help me to craft a platform for my candidacy that would offer an alternative to the American people for the two main parties, and a very advanced cybersecurity platform. We have 2 more points to get to before I get to the questions, so don't forget to send them in to the bottom. And of course, my little plug here, don't forget to go to austinpetersen2016.com. If you go today or if you donate before midnight tomorrow night, then your donation will be counted in this quarter's FEC reports. And I've only been running for president technically for about a month and a half, so I'm not going to be a big rich guy and have a lot of money. I like to dress like I do, but, you know, girl, this comes from TJ Maxx. You know, I'm a thrifty shopper because, you know, I was raised a poor farm boy in Peculiar, Missouri, and I actually used to play guitar in Times Square between auditions and shows. When I was working in New York City, I used to take my guitar and play guitar in the subway. And so yeah, so I've never been a rich guy. As a matter of fact, the job that I made the most amount of money on, I walked away from simply because it wasn't right for me. Okay, so moving on, the last 2 reasons not to support Hillary Clinton's candidacy. She's scandal-ridden. I mean, this is the big one, of course. You know, in her decades in the limelight, Mrs. Clinton has found herself involved in a number of scandals. In the infamous Whitewater controversy, she and her husband were found to be involved in some suspect real estate investments during their time in a failed business venture. Mrs. Clinton was also implicated in the Travelgate scandal, which alleged that the Clintons had fired White House travel staff employees so that some of the Clintons' friends could take their place. And this is something you guys need to look into. While President Clinton, Bill Clinton, was exonerated of any wrongdoing, Mrs. Clinton was found to have played a central role in the firings and made false statements about the matter. Mrs. Clinton was also involved in the Filegate scandal, which alleged that she had requested and read top-secret FBI background checks for political purposes. This is not the kind of person that you want in the White House, especially after we had the IRS scandals under the Obama administration's watch. Lois Lerner and the emails that they would attack conservative groups. Do you think that that is going to change if Hillary Clinton is president of the United States? Absolutely not. There's going to be doubling down of these scandals, and we need a libertarian in the White House so that we can end the corruption, bring the end to the corruption, and bring transparency back to government. You know, I like to make the joke that I just wish the government was as big as it was in the 90s. The 1790s, yeah. Key and Peele, this moment right here. Now, this would be a lot funnier, of course, if there was actually someone here to laugh with me and like give me fives and stuff. But for right now, I just have to act like there's somebody giving me the high fives. And of course, number 10, the last reason why Hillary Clinton should not be the president is Benghazi. Benghazi. There is perhaps no greater scandal than the one which occurred during Mrs. Clinton's time as Secretary of State. On September 11th, 2012, Islamic radicals attacked the American embassy in Benghazi, Libya, killing Ambassador Chris Stevens and Foreign Service Information Management Officer Sean Smith. Stevens was the first U.S. ambassador killed on duty since 1979. Hours later, a second assault killed 2 CIA contractors. Requests for more security had been made by the American representatives in Libya to the Clinton State Department for months prior, but they were ignored. And those are the top 10 reasons why Hillary Clinton should not be president of the United States. I'm going to go ahead and give you just a couple of minutes of questions and answers here. Someone asked about the fair tax. I'm not a fan of the fair tax. I think that it's way too complicated for us to try and create a brand new style of taxation. I think that there would be probably a little too much chaos. Right now we need to take the taxes that we currently have and let's cut them in half and flatten them out. I'm in favor of the flat tax simply because it reduces the burden on the American taxpayers for them to file their forms and taxes. It is a nightmare, let me tell you, trying to file all your forms, especially as a small businessman, or small business person, excuse me. All right, so any other questions here? Yes, of course, Hillary supporters don't care about facts or reality. Let's see. Well, I don't see any other like direct, straight-up questions, but your stance on here we go, the last one. This will be the end. Austin, you may have covered this previously. This comes from Mike Janis, but please tell me your stance on the DOE, then the EPA, the Department of Energy. Well, I'm not a fan of the Department of Energy. I'm not sure that the United States necessarily needs an energy policy per se. I think that the government really needs to stay out of the energy sector, and the private market, the private sector should be taking care of energy. And the EPA was originally created to provide expertise in court cases, and they weren't meant to be an enforcement arm. And of course, you see, we've all had all sorts of disasters caused by the EPA. And recently, they had a spill in the Animas River in Colorado. The government is the biggest polluter. The federal government is the biggest polluter. So why do we trust the biggest polluters to make these decisions? The EPA needs to be reined in from their enforcement branch, and they need to be able to provide expertise on problems that arise in disputes of property rights. So if one neighbor is polluting another neighbor's private property, for example, then perhaps the EPA could provide research and analysis and scientific expertise in order to testify in court cases, and that would be what I would relegate them to. What is my most favorable form of taxation? Oh, that is not a question you want to ask a libertarian. I'm not in favor of really any taxes. I really don't care for any taxes, and I think if you're going to have taxes, they should be as voluntary as possible, which is why I have written a piece at the Libertarian Republic called 6 Ways to Fund Public Services in a Libertarian Republic, and I'll share that for you in the chat. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Don't forget, very important, before midnight tomorrow night, send at least $3 to austinpetersen2016.com. $3 will help us to beat back the forces of statism, people like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Would you like to see this guy sitting at the Oval Office desk, sitting there just vetoing every single bill that comes across my desk? You can help make that happen. Thank you very much for being a supporter. Thanks for tuning in, and Happy New Year.